very habitable man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
We stand for America, and we stand against walls. We know that there is no bargain in which we can sacrifice some of our humanity to gain a little more security. We know that we deserve and will lose both of them if we do. We stand for the best traditions and values of this country, for our fellow humanity, and who we are when we are at our best, and that's El Paso, Texas. I'm glad the country's here to see us.
Beto, everybody. Beto O'Rourke. Down in the West Texas town of El Paso, if you fall in love with a Mexican girl, you're going to have to do it through concertina wire, is basically what that is last night. I don't know if you saw it or not. You had Twitler down there in El Paso. And, of course, the people of El Paso were having none of it. And so the first contretemps was over crowd size. Of course it was. It's Twitler, the man with the tiny little hands. Twitler. And so he was down there last night, and he was screaming about, women and his little rape fantasy about bound and gagged women in cars and build the wall and finish the wall, and saying he'd already built the wall, and that's why he needs them to say finish the wall. And he's demanding that we literally build a wall that he said last night was already built. I can't, I don't know. It takes 2 seconds to tell the truth and a lifetime to freaking lie. So that was what was on my Starbucks cup. My Howard Schultz Starbucks cup. By the way, Howard Schultz is doing a town hall tonight at 10 o'clock. At 9 o'clock on Rachel, Cory Booker will be interviewed. For those of you who are looking at your alternatives and can't wait to choose one, there's some good TV tonight. Last night, just torture. Just wow. I mean, unbelievable. It was a liapalooza. It was, and the crowd size thing. Oh, that's my email. The crowd size thing was so easily debunked. It was just, no, my email's not open. I don't understand what's going on here today. Right? It's all haywire, right? Are you haywire in there? Yeah, we're haywire in here too. And no, it's not about the fiber. The fiber is here. It's like it's in the wall, but it hasn't been hooked up. It'll be hooked up tomorrow because, our friend Roy is coming tomorrow, and he'll do that. But so we know we can't blame him. He's probably so happy that it's not hooked up yet. You can't blame me. Hey, Chicky, can't blame me. No, something's going on. I don't know what it is. But anyway, they were down in the West Texas town of El Paso. The people from El Paso were at Beto O'Rourke's rally. The people at Trump's rally, according to NBC News, weren't even from El Paso. These were people who drove an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Some people drove 9 freaking hours to support this president. I got to say, there were 3 women standing behind Trump that somebody needs to tap them on the shoulder and tell them that, they're Latinas. I don't even understand how people could be there just cheering for the demise of their own bloodline. It was just very bizarre, I must say. So this is not Marty Robbins' El Paso. Down in the West Texas town of El Paso, I fell in love with a Mexican girl through bollard and fencing. Doesn't have the same ring to it, does it? No, it isn't. So he railed on his mythical wall last night and said that Beto O'Rourke only had 200 to 300 people show up. Well, the real number is from the El Paso sheriff. Beto O'Rourke got at least 7,000 people out there last night from El Paso. Anywhere from 7,000 to 15,000 people were there to see and support Beto O'Rourke, who said, "This is inspiring. This is the border standing up for itself." That's what he was there to say.
Oh, this is inspiring. This is the border standing up for itself. This is El Paso telling our story. No one can tell it better than we can. Safe, strong, secure community. That's who we are.
Okay, so the crowd estimates 7,000 to 8,000 attended O'Rourke's protest. Anywhere, over, it could have been up to 15,000. And Trump, according to the fire department, because he had it at the Coliseum, so there actually is a head count, okay? Capacity, per the fire department in El Paso, 6,500 attended. And there were no special accommodations made for what Donald Trump characterized last night as his overflow crowd. So Beto beat Donald Trump in freaking West Texas. That's woohoo. And Trump, I swear to God, it got under his skin. And so he challenged, he said, I swear to God, this is what this man says. I mean, this is his fantastical alternative reality that is in his orange comb-over head. He said, I'm not going to play it because I know people get annoyed, but there are some pieces I have to play because if I tell you he said this, you won't even believe me. But he said, so let's say we have 35,000 people tonight. 35,000. He had 6,500. But he said, let's say we had 35,000 people tonight, and he has, Beto, 200 people, 300 people, not good, not too good. None of that was true. 7,000 to 8,000 for Beto, and 6,500 was capacity for the Coliseum, and Trump's Coliseum was at capacity according to the fire department. He also exaggerated, of course, he exaggerated the crime statistics. He called the news. He said some of the most dishonest people in the media are the fact checkers now. It's the fact checkers, the people who have no dog in this race, the people who have no horse in this race, the people that just simply, and their fact checks are fact checks are fact checks. It isn't open. I swear it's not. But he just lied. He just lied and lied and lied and lied. But he said some of the weirdest things, okay? He said, he called Mexicans last night. I mean, this is just bizarre. He just started screaming for no reason. Murderers, murderers, killers, killers. Just to get the crowd riled up. It was the sickest thing. This is really, really short. Yeah,
murders,
I know it's short.
Murders. Killings, murders.
Oh, my God.
We will.
Murders, killings. All the crime stats clearly show that not only is El Paso, where he was, one of the safest cities in this country, they have about 700,000 people living there, and the crime per 100,000 is less than the crime per 100,000 in New York, in D.C., in Baltimore, in Chicago. I mean, it's one of the safest cities. And this ridiculous idea about his mythical wall, doing something to the crime stats, bringing it. So I'm saying it's very hard to understand him. He's like, build the wall. I'm already building the wall, but we need to build the wall to. I don't know. I don't know. We build a wall that he's already built, and then you make his fantasies reality or his lies true. I don't know what it is we're supposed to be doing here. I mean, he got his ass kicked by Nancy Pelosi, and now he's been totally upstaged by Beto O'Rourke. And, it's like he has so many losses, he might not even make it into the playoffs, meaning he could get primaried, is what I'm saying, okay? So here he was, introducing himself to El Paso.
I am very, very thrilled to be here in the great state of Texas. Right on the banks of the legendary Rio Grande, where, by the way, I don't know, you heard, right? Today, we started a big, beautiful wall right on the Rio Grande.
What?
Right smack on the Rio Grande.
I don't know, because all the fact checkers tell you that there's no new wall right smack in the Rio Grande. I cut that very short for you because I know you have a low tolerance, a low threshold for pain. However, he did right after that start screaming about, look at those people back there, pointing to the media, and said that they were the most dishonest people, that the most dishonest were the fact checkers, and got people to boo the media, especially, CNN, their favorite, villain. And then all of a sudden, news came to him while he was on the stage that a deal had been reached, a bipartisan deal in Congress. This is Republicans and Democrats in the House and Senate had reached a deal. And instead, and this happened, he claims it happened during his speech, or I think he said right before I came up here, which would be true. This deal was announced before he got to the stage. And I know that he knew because he was super, super freaking late to the stage, because they were probably deciding whether or not he should do this or not, because a deal had been reached. So here's how he lied to, the 6,500, people who drove 9 hours to be in El Paso, to claim to be from El Paso last night.
Now, I have to tell you, as I was walking up to the stage, they said that progress is being made with this committee. Just so you know, we're building the wall anyway. They say that progress has been made with this committee. Just now, I said, wait a minute, I got to take care of my people from Texas. I got to go. I don't even want to hear about it. I don't want to hear about it. So I don't know what they mean. Progress is being made, significant. Now, what did happen is the Democrats were being hit really hard on the concept of releasing criminals into our society. That has not been playing well.
That's not right.
So maybe progress has been made, maybe not. But I had a choice. I could have stayed out there and listened, or I could have come out to the people of El Paso and Texas.
Except they're not from El Paso. Maybe Texas, but not from El Paso. But let me just tell you, one little short clip like that, okay? He lied and said he just got news right now, that progress has been made. A deal in principle was reached before he got to the stage. That's number one. Number two, I had to come and take care of the people from Texas. What he's likely going to do is declare a national emergency, because I know what the deal is. You probably know by now, too, and it's not anywhere near the $5.7 billion he wants. And so what he'll do is, if he declares a national emergency, he'll take the national disaster money that was slated for Texas, for communities hit hard by Harvey, and reprogram that money to the freaking stupid wall that he just said in the previous clip was being built smack dab on the Rio Grande, but he's building it a wall, and I don't know.
It's Randy at RandyRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
I heard the same thing from the fake news.
Oh.
They said, crime actually stayed the same. Didn't stay the same. Went way down. And look at what they did to their past crimes, and look at how they recorded those past crimes. Went way, way down. These people, you think they'd want to get to the bottom of a problem and solve a problem, not try and pull the wool over everybody's eyes. So for those few people that are out there on television saying, it didn't make too much of a difference, it made a tremendous... People from El Paso, am I right?
Anything he says. Anything he says is fine.
It's fake news. It's fake. I'm telling you, it's just fake news.
Oh, my God. All right, so there's a reason. There's a method behind my madness. There is a reason why I'm playing you this. I think you all know the facts that El Paso, population about 700,000. Violent crime has been cut in half since the 90s. and it was cut in half prior to 2009. In 2009, that's when the wall was built. Crime literally ticked up after that and now has returned back to its low. New York City, just so you know the numbers, 600 violent crimes per 100,000 residents. Washington, 1,200 violent crimes per 100,000 people. El Paso, 400 violent crimes per 100,000 people. So it's got one of the lowest crime rates. And it was on the downside way before the fencing was complete in 2009. And then, just so you remember, it went up ever so slightly after the wall. And now it's back down to 400 per 100,000. So that's just a fact. But the reason why I'm showing you how, he attacks the news, he attacks the news, he attacks the news. He did it again. He did it again later on. He called the media fake news. He led them in a chant of build a wall. He said that, he got them to scream and chant, CNN sucks, CNN sucks. They were whipped into a frenzy so that in the middle of the president's speech, one of his maggots in a maggot hat decided this would be a great time to attack a cameraman. A cameraman. And this cameraman was thrown to the ground by one of his maggots, an older man wearing his red stupid hat, went and attacked and tackled a BBC cameraman.
He also had a few things to say about the media. That led to some aggression against the media. This is a tweet from the BBC producer who was in the crowd. Just attended my first Donald Trump rally where my colleague, BBC cameraman Rob Skeens, was attacked by a Trump supporter. The crowd had been whipped up into a frenzy against the media by Trump and other speakers. Let's just show you the video that they put to that.
Americans, Hispanic Americans, and Asian Americans have reached the lowest level in the history of our country. Americans, Hispanic Americans.
Not so shocking to a lot of the American media, perhaps, but for the British media, going to that type of event for the first time, it was a real shock.
Yeah, it's absolutely horrible. I mean, the actions of that individual are very much on him, and as Bonnie just said, I mean, that's a potential lawsuit right there. Absolutely horrific. But there is no question that Donald Trump creates an atmosphere where people think it's okay to behave in a certain way that I don't think was okay 3 or 4 years ago. And to contrast it, do you remember when Obama, during the 2016 election, there was that Trump protester who came in and the crowd started to heckle him? And Obama stopped them. Yeah. He said, don't boo, vote. He also said that man looks like a veteran. We respect veterans. He looks like an elder. We respect elders. He encouraged his crowd to step back from violence and aggression and to use their democratic right to show their concerns.
Yeah, there would be a difference there, do you know? I mean, there would be a huge difference. You remember that day when a Trump supporter was in an Obama rally and Obama said, no, don't boo, vote, because the crowd did, turn on this man. And he said, no, he looks like a veteran because he was wearing, like a VFW hat. And he said, no, he looks like a veteran. Plus, he's an elder. We respect our veterans. We respect our elders. Don't do this. Go vote. Go vote. There's a slight difference. But this poor cameraman, here's the raw footage of it.
Americans, Hispanic Americans, and Asian Americans have reached the lowest level in the history of our country.
CNN sucks. I mean, this is what he does. This is what he does to people. He whips them up into a frenzy. And how did he? You got to hear the crap he told them last night. You know, he started screaming, murder, murder, killings, murder. And they're chanting, build the wall, build the wall. This came after he was telling people that Virginia's governor was executing babies. I mean, this was so sick.
He almost moonwalked. His wife stopped him. Darling, darling, it would be inappropriate. I want to see somebody try and imitate Michael Jackson in the moonwalk. This would not have been a good scene. His wife saved him. Darling, this would be inappropriate. I think she was right.
He almost did a southern accent.
But the governor stated that he would even allow a newborn baby to come out into the world and wrap the baby and make the baby comfortable and then talk to the mother and talk to the father and then execute the baby. Execute the baby.
Are you out of your freaking mind? Are you out of your freaking... Again, this is all Fox News, okay? This is that propaganda thing that goes on and on and on, this endless loop of somebody calling, infanticide. Again, what Northam was saying is that if an unviable fetus, if an unviable baby is carried to term and the woman, is delivering an unviable life... And then he said, I could tell you exactly what happens. The baby is delivered. The baby is made comfortable. And then a conversation ensues between the parents and the doctor. That conversation is not about executing the baby on the altar of Satan in an operating room. It's about the prognosis, the available treatment, if any, hospice care, palliative care, etc., etc. I mean, this is a sick man. How is this man the president of the United States? I just don't even get it. And so he whips them all up into a frenzy right after he talked about the murder of the babies. That's when he started screaming. He started screaming about murder, murder, killers, murder, murder.
Murders, killings, murders.
Oh, it's so sick. And then he started talking about his great relationship with Kim Jong-un. And he started saying, remains are coming back. Remains are coming back. I mean, it's the sickest thing. Sickest thing. I've never heard anything so bizarre in my whole life. In my whole life, it was just off the hook, man. Listen.
We have remains are coming back. Remains.
Remains are coming back. Remains, and I'm going to Vietnam. I just, and these people, it's so hard to believe that they're grown, formed, on their own, babies. It's hard to believe that they're, literally out of the womb, and that they can be brainwashed in this manner by a cult leader. It was just frightening last night. Of all the rallies that he ever did, that one scared me the most. It was off the freaking wall. It was so unhinged. It was so bizarre. Just standing there screaming, remains are coming back. Murder, 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 killer, kill. Fake news, fake news. CNN sucks, CNN sucks. And then violence ensues. And the president is just standing there. And then he lies the next day about, I had capacity, I had 10,000 plus 10,000. He had 6,500 people. All the reporters were asking people where are they from. Almost no one was from El Paso. The people of El Paso, anywhere from 7,000 to 15,000, were over by Beto supporting him as they stood up for the true facts about their city.
I think it's terrible to seize someone's home or their farm or their ranch or their land to build a wall that we don't need at a time of record safety and security along the border, with record low levels of northbound apprehensions, with never a terrorist or terrorist organization having used the U.S.-Mexico border to attack this country. It's absolutely the wrong thing to do. It's a solution in search of a problem. We don't need that.
It is. It is. Why? Because it's what his racist base wants. It's what they crave. It's what they're clamoring for. And he feeds them and feeds them lie after lie after lie. And you know what kills me? These are supposed to be Republicans. You remember when rap music first started? I don't mean like Rapper's Delight, which was really the first rap song. I mean, and Blondie had a rap song too, right? But no, I'm talking about gangster rap specifically, that genre. And, you had F the Police and all that. These were my friends, actually. I ended up knowing these guys, and they were awesome. And I knew their families, like Chuck D's dad. His name is Lorenzo. I hope he's still with us because he loves me, and I love him. But I'm just saying, the Republicans were screaming about the coarsening of the culture. You remember that? This was all part of the corrupt cell of the transfer of wealth from us to the richest Americans, right? We were coarsening the culture. Black people were coarsening the culture. It was all with racist undertones. I mean, it didn't matter that, white kids loved rap. No, that didn't matter. What mattered was the people that were making it looked really black. And so they started screaming that, they're coarsening they're coarsening the culture. They're coarsening. Now we find out almost every politician from Virginia at one time or another impersonated some rap star or some, black artist because they loved them. You know why? They were white kids in the 80s. I'm just saying. So this man isn't coarsening the culture. He is truly causing people right in front of your face to do violence to others, to slam their cars into young girls, to march down the street with tiki torches saying, Jews will not replace us, to tackling cameramen from across the pond. Wrong cameraman, moron. It's unbelievable. And the president is on the stage knowing that a deal in principle. And why I say in principle is because it has to be voted on tomorrow. But the deal in principle is done. And what is in this deal, he's not going to like. But I'll tell you what he's going to do. I told you a long time ago. I don't know if it was a week ago or 2 weeks ago, when I said what I would do if I were as evil and as greedy and as selfish and self-centered as Donald Trump. Because I can argue from his side too, So what I said to you was that if it were me, whatever amount of money Congress votes for, and I said it'd be like 1.3 to 2.3, somewhere around there. It wouldn't be more than that. But whatever money they voted in, and 99% chance they would say that, very little of it could be used for new fencing. But I told you, whatever money Congress votes for and appropriates to him, he will sign it, he will take it. And then he will do something, either with an executive order or declaring a national emergency. He'll get more. And he'll reprogram the disaster money from Houston and its surrounding areas that were damaged unbelievably in Harvey, and redirect the disaster money from the fires, the Camp Fire, etc., and redirect that money to the stupid wall that we don't need. And Florida, too, the damn panhandle that voted for him, their money will be redirected. He'll reprogram that money by declaring a national emergency. I said, that's what I would do if I were him. I would take every nickel that was appropriated, and then I would go declare a national emergency and take more money for. And I think that's what he's going to do. And we'll know on Friday. We'll know, at least Friday at midnight. At least by Friday at midnight, because that's when the money runs out for DHS. Okay, that is the end of the money. Now, here's the deal. Here is the deal that the House Republicans and Democrats and the Senate Democrats and Republicans voted for are going to vote for tomorrow. $1.375 billion. New fencing. $1.375 billion for new fencing, like could be steel slats or other existing technologies, but will not include a concrete wall, and is the exact same amount that was proposed last year before he shut down the freaking government. Oh, and by the way, I have to tell you, last night he admitted that After he said Chuck and Nancy shut it down, and this is a Chuck Schumer shutdown, and tried to blame the Democrats and blah, blah, blah. Last night, Idiot Boy stands there and riffs and walks himself right into, I had to shut the government down. I had to.
If we didn't do that shutdown, we would not have been able to show this country, these politicians, the world, what the hell is happening with the border. That was a very important thing we did.
That was a very important thing we did. So it's his shutdown. He says it's his shutdown. He told Chuck Schumer it was his shutdown. He said he wouldn't blame Chuck Schumer. He said I'd be proud to own the man. And what did he get for his shutdown, which people still can't get through? They still can't get through because they're only getting partial payments while all the time cards are, I told you, they weren't going to get their money right away. So people that went for, almost a month without a paycheck, they're only getting partial payments. A little here, a little there, a little this, a little that, and it's just, it's killing them. But that's what he got, the same amount that he got before the shutdown, and the same amount for not a concrete wall. Not concrete wall. He can do 55 miles of fencing with that money. That's what he can do. And you know that whole argument he was talking about capping the number of beds, right? Because ICE wants to do raids and, deport people like crazy. Well, the number of beds this year available, 49,000. The number of beds paid for next year after this bill, 40,000. Nancy Pelosi just kicked his ass. It means the amount of money that's going to be available for the remainder of this fiscal year decreases.
Connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
All right, everybody. This is the mayor of El Paso. His name is D. Margo. D. Hey, D. Margo. And he's a Republican, and he's very mealy-mouthed and yellow-bellied and timid and, doesn't impress one way or the other. But he was forced into admitting that the president lies about the crime rate in El Paso over and over and over again for his stupid, stupid project. You know what I heard today? And I haven't had a chance to check this out, but apparently in San Diego, after a repair of a portion of wall that was appropriated and funded by the Obama administration's Congress, and Obama signed it, after that fencing was put in San Diego or built in San Diego or repaired in San Diego, Trump had some sort of a ceremony where he brought Christian Nielsen down there, and they had a ceremony where they drilled a plaque onto that wall that calls it the Trump wall, on a wall that it isn't a wall, it's a fence that was built during the Obama administration. How sick a man is this? Anyway, D. Margo was asked, when are you going to speak up, D? When are you going to grow some backbone? When are you going to stop being a ferret? When are you going to stop being a spineless being and admit to everybody, even though you're a Republican, that the president is using El Paso and it's very low crime rate, and he's lying.
As you're aware, the president has used El Paso's experience to justify his demand for a border barrier, claiming that the wall there reduced crime. CNN fact-checked this, others have, and I'm going to put a graph up on the screen here that shows that, in fact, violent crime in El Paso came down for years before a border wall decision in 2006, ticked up a bit around the time it was built in 2008. I'm just curious, because I know your position is to have a more broad discussion here, that barriers have their role, but it's not all about barriers. But this is a central part of the president's argument there, that you need the barriers, otherwise we're going to have a sort of wave of criminals coming across the border from Mexico. Is that connection, is that justification misleading in your view?
Well, what he was echoing in the State of the Union, and he was certainly correct at the end of his remarks about El Paso, that we are the safest city, but the prefacing remarks were he was echoing what had been said by our Attorney General a few weeks ago in McAllen. That was wrong. If people had contacted me about our Attorney General's remarks, I would have corrected it at that time as well.
You're talking about...
You're saying, to be clear, you're saying the president is wrong. He was wrong in the State of the Union when he made this claim about crime rising there without the barrier.
Well, exactly. We were going back to 2005, one of the safest cities in the nation.
Hello.
The barrier went up, and the fence went up, and it's only about 10 miles long, and the total fencing in the El Paso sector is about 78 miles, and it's not continuous. Now it's part of the process for border security, but it's not the total panacea. But the remarks that the president made in the State of the Union were stated originally almost verbatim by our Attorney General some weeks ago, and that's where the erroneous comments came from, that were not correct.
You're talking about Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, and I'm just wondering if you reached out, or your team reached out to the administration following the State of the Union to correct them on the facts there, and if so, what the response was.
We didn't directly reach out. We reached out to public media when everyone was commenting. I reached out on my own personal media, and I've responded every interview I've been requested since last Tuesday evening to correct the record. But when he comes in, if we can get a chance to visit, I'll reiterate that.
If he comes in and we get a chance to visit, I'll tell him, the crime's been really low for at least 12 years, and the barrier wasn't built till 2009, and so, it didn't come from me, it came from Paxton. He's which tells me this mayor wants to be Attorney General. It's just so strange. This was such a strange thing. So anyway, not only did he lie about his crowd size, which was smaller than Beto O'Rourke's, not only did he lie about the deal that, it just came in. No, he knew about the deal. The deal was announced before he ever took the stage, which is why he was late. And now he's saying to the people in El Paso, we just started building a brand new wall smack dab in the middle of the Rio Grande, but we need to build a wall. I can't even follow this. And the thing that is so disturbing is that these people will listen to anything this cult leader says. This is real Jim Jones stuff. This is real, la-ti-da and la-ti-do. This is real, Koresh. It's very Koreshian, which also started in West Texas and Waco. It was all Waco. I don't know what's in your water. Apparently, our EPA is not on that fence, but wow, this is just crazy. So the deal that he said, in the middle of his speech, he's like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to know about it. I don't want to know about the deal. So the deal includes 1.375 for fencing, 55 miles of fencing along the border. 200 miles of wall is what he wanted at $5.7 billion, and that would be the down payment on about, $20 billion. He's getting exactly what they offered him last year. Exactly what they offered him last year. And I have to tell you that the decrease in beds, I want you to understand why Democrats fought so hard to take down the number of detention beds. Here's why. They are very furious and disturbed that Donald Trump goes after children and mothers. And they thought, and they're right, that if we decrease the number of beds, it would force ICE. It would force Border Patrol to focus only on criminals instead of children. Now, we know this is true because there were hearings, this week with, what's his name? Daddy Warbucks, Whitaker. And Pramila Jayapal, oh my God, she grilled Matthew Whitaker, and this man lied and lied and lied.
Before or after the zero tolerance policy was put into place, and I call it the zero humanity policy, did the U.S. attorneys track when they were prosecuting a parent or legal guardian who had been separated from their child? There's only one answer to this. It's gone through the courts.
Did we track it?
Did you track when you were prosecuting a parent or legal guardian who had been separated from a child?
I don't believe we were tracking that.
You were not tracking it. That is the correct answer. And when parents are prosecuted and sentenced, they are in DOJ custody, correct?
Correct. Their custody is transferred to the U.S. Marshals.
So these parents were in your custody. Your attorneys are prosecuting them, and your department was not tracking parents who were separated from their children. Do you know what kind of damage has been done to children and families across this country? Children who will never get to see their parents again. Do you understand the magnitude of that?
I understand that the policy of zero tolerance.
Has the Justice Department started tracking parents and legal guardians who were separated from their children at the border?
The time of the gentlelady has expired. The witness may answer the question.
Congresswoman, I appreciate your passion for this issue, and I know that you've been very involved on the front lines of this.
This is about more than my passion. This is about the children's future, Mr. Whitaker.
That was heartbreaking, and a lot of people didn't see that. And then she was interviewed about that exchange, and she said, I was so furious.
I was so furious. This is the acting attorney general of the United States, and he did not know, first of all, he did not know the information. He said he didn't know about the memo before this piece. I asked him if he knew about this leaked memo that Senator Merkley had shown us that said that the Department of Justice had been told that they had to give advance notice to all these different departments in order to coordinate this. Wolf, we still don't know how many thousands of children were separated from their parents. I have been in there and I talked to them. I was completely furious with him. These are his prosecutors. They're not tracking these children. And he has nothing to say to me. And at the end, he tried to, I thought in a very condescending way, say, I know you're passionate about this issue. This is not about my passion. This is about the children who have been separated and will never see their parents again.
But even if they're never going to see, that's awful. But even if a child who's 3 or 4 or 5 years old is separated from a mother or a father for a month or 2 months and eventually reunited, the trauma they go through during that period at night, they call out for their mommy or their daddy and they don't see him. That's an awful situation. You would have thought he would have at least said to you, our hearts go out, we're trying to do the... We didn't hear any of that.
No, in fact, he tried to deny that there was family separation, which has been the consistent, Kristen Nielsen also tried to deny that to me. That's gotten 4 Pinocchios from the Washington Post. This was family separation done by this administration, and children, exactly like you said, couple months away from their parents, some babies that had been taken from their mother's breasts, and the parents who didn't know where their children were. I mean, the trauma is tremendous, and I watched some of these parents ultimately being reunited with their children, and they were sobbing like there was no tomorrow. Some of the children didn't want to go to their parents because they thought that their mothers had abandoned them.
It was just a nightmare. You remember that. That's kind of why we won the midterms, I think. But anyway, so contrast that with a president standing on a stage telling a rabid audience, a very sick and diseased audience, that Ralph Northam, the governor of Virginia, wants to execute babies in an operating room. But really what he's doing is separating babies from their mother's breasts and detaining and not tracking the children, the parents, where they are, where their children went, et cetera, et cetera. You can't hold both ideas in your head. Either you love children or you don't, and they don't. They love the fetus, they hate the child. They couldn't give a rat's ass about children. They don't care about, especially black and brown children, but they don't care about any children, okay? That's just a fact of life, and it's easily demonstrable with this exchange. However, the reason why the Democrats want the number of detention beds reduced is to force the Department of Justice, to force Department of Homeland Security, to force them to concentrate on criminals and to take their eyes off of children and Honduran housewives. That's why that is important. And I don't know, all this explanation about, oh, he only got 1.3 and Sean Hannity sitting on the TV last night. The second he heard, calling this garbage. It's a garbage funding. It's garbage.
This new so-called compromise, I'm getting details, $1.3 billion? That's not even a wall, a barrier?
Right.
I'm going to tell this tonight, and we will get back into this tomorrow.
Yeah.
Any Republican that supports this garbage compromise, you will have to explain. Look at this crowd, look at the country, look at CBS News. Even they say 72% of the American people want the heroin to stop, the cartels to stop, the gang members to stop, and those that wish us ill.
None of those issues have anything to do with a freaking wall, because those things that you just talked about come in through the legal ports of entry. And so Nina Lowey was on TV right after, and they were asking her, did you hear Sean Hannity? I mean, how could the president sign it? I don't even know if the president could sign it, because Sean Hannity and Lala Ingraham and Ann Coulter, they're like, you know, tweeting their brains out, and they hate this deal, and da-da-da. And Nina Lowey is like, we don't talk to Sean Hannity or Ann Coulter or Matt Drudge or anybody when we make policy.
I would hope Sean Hannity and all the other people you mentioned aren't running this government. This was a bipartisan deal, Senate and House, Republican, Democrat, and I think we did an excellent job that all parts of our caucuses can accept. And as some people didn't want to compromise, they probably wanted to shut the government down. We cannot shut the government down. I'm proud to be an appropriator. I'm proud to work with my colleagues. We, I think, constructed a very good deal, again, that would secure our border. Yeah. And that's what this is all about.
I mean, the only reason that I bring up the Sean Hannity thing is that, you know, back in, I can't remember anymore when it was, but you thought you had a deal, I guess December, and then Ann Coulter and Matt Drudge didn't like it, and the president backed off.
Look, when we sat around this table and negotiated this deal, we didn't call Sean Hannity, we didn't call Coulter, we didn't call all the other people you mentioned. This was a deal that was negotiated between Republicans and Democrats, House and Senate, and we think we came to a good compromise, again, that would secure our border, because that's the goal.
So, in the homework today at randyrhodes.com, you can sign up and it will be delivered to you each and every day lovingly by us to you. There is an article in there called Beyond the Wall, and it talks about all the things that we use and should be increasing the use of in order to secure the border, in order to keep drugs out, like cargo scanners and blimps and drones and all the tech. And the reason why we don't do it? Because you'd have to train people. And you all know that ICE is where you go when you can't pass a lie detector test at Border Patrol. And 65% of the applicants that apply fail that lie detector test. 2,000 Border Patrol agents have already lost their jobs. They've been fired. We can't keep Border Patrol agents. But if you are interested in drugs and keeping them out of the country, you got to look at tunnels.
Mary had a little man. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me. Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
At the President's State of the Union address, he claimed that my community, El Paso, Texas, quote, used to have extremely high rates of violent crime, one of the highest in the entire country, end quote. And he claimed that we became one of the safest communities in America because of a wall. Data from the FBI's Uniform Crime Reporting Program shows that El Paso has historically been one of the safest communities in the nation, and that we were such long before a wall was constructed. Do you have any reason to disagree with the FBI's Uniform Crime Reporting data?
Congresswoman, we use the UCR on a regular, ongoing basis to not only know where our crime hotspots are, but to also put our resources at the Department of Justice.
Sir, that's not my question. Let me repeat my question.
Okay.
Do you have any reason to disagree with the FBI's uniform crime reporting data?
Congresswoman, I think the UCR...
Do you have any reason, sir, to disagree with your FBI's data?
As I sit here today,
Yes or no?
I do not have any reason to disagree with the FBI's data.
Thank you very much.
She's great. Her name's Veronica Escobar, and she is a Congress member from El Paso. Don't mess with her, Whitaker. Don't mess with her. In fact, while we're on the Whitaker topic, let me just show you where he lied. This is unfreaking believable. So you had Eric Swalwell ask Whitaker if he had been involved in any Mueller-related pardons, and here was his answer.
Have there been any discussions at the department about pardons for Paul Manafort, Roger Stone, Michael Flynn, or Michael Cohen?
Congressman, we have a very well-worn system
that the president doesn't follow, but have there been discussions about pardons for those individuals that you're aware of, yes or no?
Congressman, as I've been acting Attorney General, I have not been involved in any discussions of any pardons, even and including the ones you're discussing.
All right. I think we all heard that. Would you like to hear the end of that just one last time so that we can be really sure about the words that he swore to under oath were true? Okay?
Have there been any discussions at the department about pardons for Paul Manafort, Roger Stone, Michael Flynn, or Michael Cohen?
Congressman, we have a very well-worn system
that the president doesn't follow, but have there been discussions about pardons for those individuals that you're aware of, yes or no?
Congressman, as I've been acting Attorney General, I have not been involved in any discussions of any pardons, even and including the ones you're discussing.
Okay, none. He's not been aware of any pardons of any person at all ever, okay? Here is Veronica Escobar again from El Paso.
Did you ever create...
The gentlelady's time has expired. I'll let her finish this one question. And
Thank you, Chairman. Did you ever create, direct the creation of, see, or become aware of the existence of any documents relating to pardons of any individual?
I am aware of documents relating to pardons of individuals, yes.
Huh?
You're an idiot.
One more time, would you like? Just so that we're clear here, okay? Here's Swalwell.
Have there been any discussions at the department about pardons for Paul Manafort, Roger Stone, Michael Flynn, or Michael Cohen?
Congressman, we have a very well-worn system
that the president doesn't follow, but have there been discussions about pardons for those individuals that you're aware of, yes or no?
Congressman, as I've been acting Attorney General, I have not been involved in any discussions of any pardons, even and including the ones you're discussing.
Any pardons of any person, including the ones you're discussing.
Did you ever create...
The gentlelady's time has expired. I'll let her finish this one question. And
Thank you, Chairman. Did you ever create, direct the creation of, see, or become aware of the existence of any documents relating to pardons of any individual?
I am aware of documents relating to pardons of individuals, yes.
Look at her face. She's like, what? You just swore under oath that you weren't at all aware of any pardons of any person, including the ones that you're discussing. And then she asks him again, as her time is running out, you get 5 minutes, and with her last, 20 seconds, she asks, have you ever created or been aware of or seen any documents that related to the pardons of any individuals? And he says, yes, I have. So is Whitaker going to be a Fox News analyst, or is Whitaker going to jail? And if Whitaker goes to jail for lying to Congress, I'm guessing like 3 to 5, and then a Fox analyst, which, 3 to 5 isn't going to stop anybody from hiring anybody over at Fox. Look at Bill O'Reilly. How many millions of dollars did they pay out to women that he was molesting? And they still, kept him around. Oh, it's just wow. So I just wanted to show you that these people, through and through, everyone around this president is an absolute mental midget and that they are all disingenuous. They're liars. All of them. Every one of them. So we've already shown you he lied about the crowd size last night. He lied about Beto's crowd size, which was bigger than his little crowd. He lied about the crime stats in El Paso. He lied about he's building a wall, and we just started one smack dab in the middle of the river, but we have to build a wall. He lied about the fact that, we have to finish a wall that hasn't been started. He lied about the fact that he didn't know that the Congress had reached a deal before he got on stage. Today, last night, Sean Hannity's calling it garbage. This morning, the president says, no, it's not so bad. Now he's saying he's very unhappy and everybody's confused again. He's not happy, but he's likely to sign it because I'm telling you, if I were him, that's what I'd do. I would take every damn nickel that they appropriated and I would take it and then I would declare a national emergency and deal with the courts. Because the second he does that, it's going right to the court. Right to the court. To say that there is no national emergency. And Exhibit A in the fact that there is no national emergency is his own words saying that he would use a national emergency as Plan B, as a backup. Right? So we just know that these people are freaking liars. All right, you want to hear something? I have a reason. Just bear with me, okay? Because it's him. It's him last night. But this is just stunning.
The fact is that the real collusion was between Hillary and the Democrats and the other side with Russia. That's where the collusion is.
With Russia?
That's where the collusion
is. Lock her up.
That's starting to make a lot more sense. But that's where the collusion is, with the Democrats and with Russia and with others. And by the way, there's also collusion between the Democrats and the fake news right here. And they know it better than anybody.
Oh, my God. CNN sucks. Right. And then they tackle a BBC cameraman.
Americans, Hispanic Americans, and Asian Americans have reached the lowest level in the history of our country.
CNN sucks. You see what he does? Okay, so he stood on stage there. The real collusion was with Hillary Clinton and the Russians. All right then. We now have Matt Whitaker lying under oath that he never saw a pardon concerning any person, even the ones that Swalwell was asking him about. And then we have further questioning by Representative Veronica Escobar, who's from El Paso, and he says, yes, I have seen pardon papers. And it turns out that in the appeal to the court from the prosecutors in Mueller's office with regard to how Paul Manafort violated his cooperation agreement, there's some transcripts now. And the way that the lawyers are arguing to the court that Paul Manafort violated his cooperation deal was not only was he running back to Trump's lawyers and telling Trump's lawyers everything that Mueller had, everything that Mueller had.
Where was there an effort by Russia, let's talk with the Kremlin, going to the Trump campaign by someone who is already damaged goods, Paul Manafort, a person who owed money to a Russian oligarch? But this operation has a longer timeline. We saw that in 2012, Donald Trump had already made contact with Konstantin Rykov, the head of Russia's TV One. 2013, they established the Internet Research Agency 2 months before the Miss Universe pageant. 2014, they invade Crimea, and Trump is effusive in his praise of Vladimir Putin. 2015, Russia starts hacking the DNC. This particular component with Konstantin Klimnik is just a guarantor that they are going to get in and have those sanctions raised if this can be proven. So this is just one component of a very broad-based intelligence operation.
So you have Manafort lying about, cooperating with Mueller and actually telling Trump's lawyers every damn thing about what Mueller has while he's supposedly not covered under this mutual defense agreement anymore, which mobsters do. And he's still running back to Trump. But also, now we know that Manafort was passing polling data to this Konstantin Klimnik dude, and that's collusion, obviously. And then in the argument that the lawyers made to the court the other day, saying why Manafort violated his cooperation agreement, he says that the reason why is because Trump was dangling a pardon. A pardon. And so Manafort was cooperating with a very, and this is Weissman's word, Andrew Weissman was explaining this to the U.S. District Judge Amy Berman Jackson, and he was trying to explain why Manafort's situation is very unusual. And he said the unusual factors here with regard to why he breached his agreement is the way that redacted, has to be Donald Trump, the way that redacted would react to what Manafort was saying and doing was very important to Manafort because redacted was dangling a pardon. So who else could be dangling a pardon? The prosecutor said, and the motive, I think, is plain. We can see what it is that he would be worried about, which is that the reaction to the idea that redacted would have, I think, negative consequences in terms of the other motive that Mr. Manafort could have, which is to at least augment his chances for a pardon. That word is not redacted. Pardon is there. But whoever it is that he's afraid to piss off in exchange for a pardon is redacted. Well, there's only one person that could grant a pardon, and that would be Trump. So obviously that was being dangled. And you know, in November, when the prosecutors accused Manafort of breaching his plea agreement, 2 days later, they asked Trump, did he take a pardon off the table? And he said, why would I take it off the table?
Show is live on RandiRhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or ProgressiveVoices.com now.
Did you ever direct the creation of, see, or become aware of the existence of any documents relating to pardons of any individual?
I am aware of documents relating to pardons of individuals, yes.
Oh! Whoops. Now, either he was lying to Swalwell when he said no, or he's lying to Escobar when he said yes. Can't have it both ways. And what Andrew Weissman, who is apparently Mueller's pit bull, is arguing to the court is that the reason why Manafort decided that he would breach his plea agreement is because the president of the United States was dangling a pardon. That is called witness tampering. Yes, it's an unusual way to tamper with a witness that's only available to the president of the United States. That's what makes it unusual, is that it's only available to one person. And that person happens to be Donald Trump. And after it became known to the public, because it was reported in the newspapers and we all read it, on November 26, 2018, when Manafort was being accused of violating his plea agreement for a number of reasons, and one of those reasons we knew back then was that he was running back to Trump's lawyers, telling Trump's lawyers stuff that was going on in the Mueller investigation so that they could then write their answers to the written questions and have everything be copacetic, have everything talk to each other, right? Say the same thing that Manafort was lying about to Mueller. Well, on November 26th, when we found out that Mueller had accused Manafort of violating the agreement, that's what we thought the reason was. Turns out there's more than one reason. Turns out that was also part of it. He was running back to Trump's lawyers. He was giving Trump's lawyers a heads up so that they could write their answers down in a way that would match Manafort's lies, which is bizarro world. I mean, that a president would be doing that. But then we find out that it's because Trump was dangling a pardon and telling Manafort, give them nothing, don't be a rat. And he was actually tweeting that stuff. Michael Cohen is a rat. Michael Cohen's family, why don't you look into his father? You know, witness tampering, intimidating a witness. And by the way, today's the day that Michael Cohen was supposed to testify in closed session, and he called in sick. Go figure. But they asked Trump after this report came out, these reporters, it was the New York Post. They had an interview with President Trump right after it became known that Manafort violated his plea agreement. And they asked him, are you considering a pardon for Manafort? And he said, quote, why would I take it off the table? You know, this flipping stuff is terrible. You flip and you lie and you get. The prosecutors will tell you 99% of the time they can get people to flip. It's rare that they can't. And one of the lies that prosecutors accused Manafort of telling while he was supposedly cooperating was about his contacts with Trump's lawyers. That's one lie. And the other one is whether or not a pardon was dangled. That's another lie. He said no. Manafort said no. Obviously, that is untrue. And Whitaker is an idiot. He is just an idiot.
Have there been any discussions at the department about pardons for Paul Manafort, Roger Stone, Michael Flynn, or Michael Cohen?
Congressman, we have a very well-worn system
that the president doesn't follow, but have there been discussions about pardons for those individuals that you're aware of? Yes or no?
Congressman, as I've been acting Attorney General, I have not been involved in any discussions of any pardons, even and including the ones you're discussing.
Except when you were.
Did you ever create?
The gentlelady's time has expired. I'll let her finish this one question. And
thank you, Chairman. Did you ever direct the creation of, see, or become aware of the existence of any documents relating to pardons of any individual?
Watch her face.
I am aware of documents relating to pardons of individuals, yes.
Huh? Well, that is an Al Franken moment. That is a moment that Al Franken had with Attorney General Jeff Sessions when he asked him about if you did have meetings with Russia, if you did do this, what should we do? Right? And Sessions said, well, I've been called to surrogate a time or two, but I've never had meetings with Russia. It turns out he was lying, and he had to recuse himself from the Russia investigation, which is how we ended up with Bat Boy there. It's how we ended up with Daddy Warbucks. Yeah, Bat Boy. Remember him from the National Enquirer? It was the World Daily News, I think, or something like that. Remember that? And they used to have like these two babies all the time. They had Bat Boy, who had like, bat ears and a bald head, just like Whitaker. And then they had the kid that aged backwards, the Benjamin Button kid, right? Who was born an old man, and he would get younger and younger. Oh, my God. This is so corrupt. It is so dirty. It is so disgusting. It is so disgraceful. An idiot boy and his boss stood on a stage last night and said the real collusion is Hillary Clinton. Is the real collusion. Today, Senator Mark Warner, who is the deputy chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, Senator Burr put out there that if he had to, go with the evidence that he has today, he would not be able to prove a conspiracy to defraud the United States. He would not be able to prove collusion. And I got to tell you that Senator Warner, he said, I got to break with Burr on this. I respectfully disagree. He said that today. He said, I'm not going to get into any conclusions I've reached because my basis of this has been that I'm not going to reach any conclusion until we finish the investigation. And we still have a number of the key witnesses who must come back. Because they don't know who lied to them. But there is a big public split. And, of course, Trump is tweeting, no collusion. Senator Richard Burr said no collusion, no collusion. Of course there was collusion. We saw the collusion. We lived through the collusion. Oh, speaking of the collusion between Junior and the Russians, and Manafort and the Russians, and Kushner and the Russians in that same meeting, did you have, I bet nobody saw this. Did you see, the sons, Beavis and Butthead, and of course Junior is Butthead? Whoever, listen, when Beavis and Butthead were conceived and drawn on the piece of paper, when they became a drawing, I'm sure there was a photograph of Eric and Donald on the table that inspired. Did you see Junior last night? I'll bet you didn't. This childlike man, this disgusting creature that is a son, actually trashed teachers and told young people in this audience not to listen to their loser teachers. Oh, my God.
You know what I love? I love seeing some young conservatives because I know it's not easy. Okay? Keep up that fight. Bring it to your schools. You don't have to be indoctrinated by these loser teachers that are trying to sell you on socialism from birth. You don't have to do it.
Keep up the fight. Bring it to school. And then calls teachers loser teachers because they teach real history. Oh my God, this whole family, when can we rid ourselves of them? When does it actually happen that they break bail, they make bail, and then they break, and then they flee? And they move to Russia once and for all, and everybody lives happily ever after in Vlad's world. Jay in Nevada.
Hey, Randy, how you doing?
Hello.
I have a question. I'm wondering why.
All right.
When the press is sitting or standing in front of Trump and he's talking about they've got part of the wall built, and he's handed out contracts to contractors for 115 miles, how come they don't come back and say, sir, where is this wall that's being built? We'd like to see it. And who are the contractors that you're handed out this contract to?
Mm-hmm. Well, they don't want to become the story, right? So they just get him on the record. That is kind of the media's function, believe it or not. Like, not me. I would get up in his face because I don't care if I ever get access to him again. It's not something I depend on for my living. I'm not a White House reporter.
Right, but I mean, they're just leaving that out there without him answering where it's at. And then I got one other thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
Trump's talking about doing an emergency, what's it called? What's the national emergency deal, right?
Right.
Okay. So when he does that and it goes to court, his lawyers are going to have to sit in front of a judge.
Right.
And the judge is going to sit and talk to their lawyers, the state's lawyers, and say, let me ask you, if this is such an emergency now, how come it wasn't an emergency last week?
Definitely.
How come it wasn't an emergency a month ago?
Right.
How come it wasn't an emergency last year?
Right.
How come I'm hearing that it's only an emergency because you're not getting the funds that you requested?
Right. And here's another thing that they're going to have to consider. Okay, the court has to consider what was the intent of Congress because Congress is the appropriator. So you're right. The argument about whether or not there actually is a national emergency will be issue 1. Issue 2 will be for the judge to decipher what the co-equal branch of government, Congress, intended. And when you see this piece of legislation, the intent is clear. The intent is that he invests this money in other technology to secure the border. For instance, he does ground sensors to detect tunnel building. He does drones. He does, tower cameras. He does fencing, in key areas as, requested by, DHS or whatever. And obviously, he doesn't want to fritter the money away on the things that will actually work, like, X-ray machines or dogs or cargo screeners or...
Right.
But right. So it's all going to fall apart, just like his Muslim ban did.
Yeah, it's
all
like
going to fall apart, just like when he tried to change the asylum application laws. The court came down on him like a ton of bricks.
I mean, this is ridiculous. 90% of all the stuff comes through the ports of entry.
Right.
It's kind of like going to a doctor. You go to a doctor to have him put a bandage on a cut. He's not going to go put it on your ass when it's your finger that's bleeding.
Also, if your finger is merely bleeding, he's going to put a Band-Aid on your finger. But if your finger is falling off, you're going to have surgery.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Right. I mean, the diagnosis matters. Now, why? Garbage in, garbage out. You diagnose this problem as being fixable with a stupid, stupid concrete wall, which Congress has specifically said no to in this piece of legislation. And instead of doing something at the legal ports of entry, and we have 47 legal ports of entry between us and Mexico, and that's where the drugs come in, and that's where all the crime happens. You misdiagnose the issue, you're going to have drugs still coming in. You're still going to have fentanyl. You're still going to have methamphetamine. You're still going to have heroin. You're still going to have a little bit of marijuana.
Exactly. And one of the mayors from one of the bordering cities says, we have found 100 tunnels in the past, 10 years.
I'm telling you, El Chapo was brought in guilty today. And that trial was so illustrative of how the drugs come. Because that man was running a multi-billion-dollar, illegal, but a multi-billion-dollar business. They had logistics experts. They had tunneling experts. They had air filtration systems in those. These aren't caveman tunnels. These were like 21st century prepper tunnels, okay?
Now, the tunnel, if I'm not mistaken, that got El Chapo out of the prison was 2 miles long.
Yes, from the bottom of the prison, okay, to somebody's house. Now, as I said, if you cut open, you're in Nevada, if I cut open your desert, okay, especially Arizona's desert, Texas's desert, if I cut open the desert, you know what it would look like? It would look like Swiss cheese. You would have these slices all the way through it. Tunnels, and more tunnels.
Yeah, and they're
and
hundreds
a fence.
Of feet. They're hundreds of feet deep. 20. I mean, well, not hundreds. At least 50, 60 feet deep. And then miles long.
I just want people to understand the kind of business that they were running. The person who dropped the dime on El Chapo, the primary cooperator, was his IT guy. Okay, so you don't think of the heroin as having an IT guy, but there was an IT guy, and he knew everything about every phone call, about every email, everything like that. So he was the primary witness. That's number one. Number two, he testified that there were logistics experts that had to get paid. He testified that there were construction companies that were involved, that were building these elaborate, unbelievable, over-the-top, air-filtered, air-conditioned tunnels.
Right.
What's a freaking stupid wall with Trump's name on it going to do?
He had submarines.
He had everything, and then the Coast Guard was part of the people that didn't get paid during Idiot Boy's shutdown.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
He's a ridiculous man. He's a ridiculous man with ridiculous ideas, and he lives in a fantastical fantasy land where half of what he thinks is going on ain't going on, and the stuff that is going on, he doesn't want to hear about it.
Yeah, I mean, then he's going to start doing, once he gets to the border in Mexico, he's going to have to block off Canada.
Listen, he's a piece of work. He is unworthy of holding any position of trust or honor, let alone the presidency. This is a disaster for us. The people that he denigrates for his own benefit is everybody that doesn't support him. That town of El Paso... Listen, I lived in West Texas, okay? I lived there. And I lived there before there was any fencing. And you know what was cool about it? You could go back and forth. You could go to Mexico and have Mexican food and come home. And people did do that. You could have volleyball games between the two countries, and people did that. People would come here, they would work, and then they would go home at night to be with their families.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
And the fact is, illegal immigration is a heartbreaking human tragedy. 1 in 3 women is sexually assaulted on the very long and dangerous journey north up to our country. Sex traffickers, these are the worst human beings on earth, exploit our porous border to sell young girls and women into modern-day slavery. You wouldn't even know that. Nobody knows that. And by the way, do you think they come in through the ports of entry? I listen to the Democrats. Let me be nice. Just say the Democrats. I won't be specific. And they say, oh, everything comes through the port. They don't do that. They drive out where there's no barrier, no wall. They make a left. Congratulations, you're in the United States. That's all.
It just makes crap up.
If you have 3 women tied up in the back seat of a car, you're not going through, folks, a port of entry where they do look in the back seat, at least, right? Drugs pouring through the border kills tens of thousands of innocent Americans a year, including heroin, meth, cocaine, fentanyl, so many others. They come through the southern border.
He's a sick man. He's a very sick man. You know who does human trafficking, don't you? There's a lot of Americans that do human trafficking. That's number one. They're on the internets. Most of them are pedophiles, just want to say. Apparently the Southern, not the Southern Baptists, but the evangelicals, they got a big problem with child molestation. All of a sudden, you got 200 pastors accused of molesting young children. Doesn't say anything about that. And, of course, then you have your Russian mafia. The Russian mafia loves, and I know this from living in New York my entire life, they love to bring these Russian girls through Moldova and other various places. And when the girls get here, they take their passport, because they do come through ports of entry. And then they take their passport and they make them go work as sex slaves, seriously, and pay back the pimp until the pimp feels that that woman has outlived her usefulness, and then they'll give her back her passport. That's how human trafficking looks. That's how human trafficking happens. That's where human trafficking is. And if he's so concerned about the poor haggard Honduran housewife who's being molested on her way up north, well, two points about that. 1 in 4 women in the United States military are raped. Oh, yeah. There's a little factoid, and it's always covered up. Always, because the base commander, he don't want that on his watch. No, he'll give the girl an honorable discharge or whatever, and send her on her way to get her out of here. And also, if you're worried about the 1 in 3 that are molested on their way up, then you should embrace the idea of a caravan, which is safety in numbers. Caravan. God, is he stupid. Really. And it's beyond lying, because you know that even for that moment in time when he's standing on that stage, that he's actually talked himself into believing that women are bound and gagged in the back of vans and being smuggled into this country by pimps. It's a very sick man, very twisted man. Everybody agrees that, the people that work on human trafficking have all said, all of them, we have never seen a scenario like that. We deal in this horrendous crime of trafficking in young children and in women and even in young boys, and we don't see that. We don't see that at the southern border. We don't see that coming out of Central America. We do see that coming from Eastern Europe, and we do see that with Americans exploiting children in America. Native-born are much more likely to engage in human trafficking than immigrants, legal or not. Just a fact. Linda in Maryland.
Hi, Randy. How are you?
Oh, you sound so sad.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah.
Let me try to pick it up. I was on hold. I was probably dozing.
I hear you. I'm sorry.
But anyway, I've been listening to you way before Air America, and you broke my heart a couple of times when you disappeared, but I always found you.
It happens.
But anyway, so I was telling, I forgot who answered the phone.
Scott.
But anyway, I was telling that person that
It's
I
Scott.
read the news. Scott. Hi, Scott.
Hi.
that I listen to. Well, I'm reading articles online, and then I go down to the comment section.
Yeah.
And so, they're still talking about the wall. We got to have the wall. And so, I always post the same post each time. I'll say, "Hey, Russia, if you're listening, forget about the Hillary emails. Get your boy to get Mexico to pay for the wall like he promised in your campaign." So I just post that each time.
That's hysterical.
So several times, well, it's been about 3 or 4 times, I'm getting responses back from people saying, no, Mexico is paying for the wall.
Yeah.
They're saying that Trump, I guess whatever money that we were sending to Mexico, maybe in aid or whatever, that's not going there anymore. It's staying in the U.S.
Oh,
okay.
They're so full of crap.
Oh, but I guess this is the talking point, because I got it like 3-4 times. And I was like, oh, okay. And I said, and so the last person I said, well, you do, I said, you must not be versed in fiscal appropriation laws, because you just can't take money appropriated for one thing and move it and pay, do something else with it without congressional approval.
All right.
And so then, I don't hear anything back from him after I say that. But then I was just going to call you to say, you haven't heard of anything like that?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
And here's another talking point, and here's the debunk for it. It's real easy. He say, this UMSCA deal or UMSCUM or whatever his freaking stupid NAFTA deal is, that's going to, if there's less tariffs to pay, that goes to the companies that are doing the actual product export. It doesn't go to the Treasury. So all this is delusional.
Okay. Well, they're picked up on it, though.
It's delusional.
They're using it, and
it's
more
absolutely
and more.
Delusional, and your point is correct. If Congress appropriates money for X, the president can't redirect it unless he declares a national emergency and gets away with it, and then he can reprogram, he thinks, money. Only Congress can spend money, period.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye. Oh, man. Dennis in Buffalo.
Yeah, let me talk for water. I wonder why, when they have these meetings or rallies for Trump, that there's one single person that can believe anything Donald Trump says when he's a psychological liar, number one. And number two, I firmly believe he has paid actors in that audience.
Well, we can't prove that those people are paid, but we know that at the beginning, when he first came down the escalator, those were actors that were in Trump Tower that day. We know that because the New Yorkers, spoke up and said they gave me $50 to be there, so I was there, But we don't know. All I could tell you is that the news media last night, NBC News especially, Ali Vitale and Katie Tur, were covering this rally. And Ali Vitale went out into the crowd and asked everybody where they were from. And 99% of the people were not from El Paso.
Right.
So that's just a fact. And the crowd size for Beto was larger than the crowd size for Trump. How do we know that? Fire department actually knows what the maximum capacity of the El Paso Coliseum was, and it's 6,500. And they said in a tweet, here it is. No, this is the one about where's my tax refund. Here's the El Paso Fire Department. El Paso Fire Department just told us that Trump's statement about them allowing 10,000 people inside is incorrect. Spokesman says Coliseum holds 6,500, and that is how many were allowed in the building. In addition to that, a fire department spokesman actually spoke to the El Paso Times last night. See, this is why I love newspapers. You just can't beat a newspaper. A fire department spokesman told the El Paso Times yesterday that 6,500 people were inside the venue and denied that any special accommodations were made for anybody to watch or participate or in any way, shape, or form outside the venue. So we know how many, 6,500, and we know that Beto had 7,000 minimum, maximum 15,000. And the reason why we don't have an exact number for Beto is because he was outside. He was outside. But everything he said last night was a lie. Every damn thing. And I don't know what the mental state of believing over and over and over again a pathological liar is called. I don't know if that's like Stockholm syndrome, where the person who is holding you hostage suddenly becomes somebody that you admire. I really don't know. I don't know what the mentality is that would cause somebody to drink Kool-Aid in Guyana because a guy named Jim told you to die and you said, yeah, sure, okay, I'm ready. I don't know what it would be like to be part of Heaven's Gate, and they told me put on my Nikes and commit suicide, and I do it. I have no idea. I am not manipulatable. You ask, well, ask anybody I've ever lived with. Ask the kids. Ask the husband. You can't manipulate me. I am a strong-willed, strong-minded, fact-based person. Can't bullshit me. So I don't know what that system of wanting to believe somebody that is constantly lying to you and ripping you off at the same time, or beating you, or hurting you, or denying you, or limiting your ability to be free. I don't know what that is. I don't know what you would call it. I really don't. But I will tell you this right now: if you look at Twitter, oh my God, people are starting to realize that he totally stole from them, as I told you he was, in that tax scam, okay? There are tweets all over the place going, your tax plan screwed over my middle-class family. My $3,500 refund from last year is now $7. I'm a nurse. I worked so hard, you stole from me. Here's another one. This is from a guy named Russell Matthews. He said, at GOP, I am a middle-class nurse. Why is my tax refund 59%, literally thousands of dollars lower this year than any time in the past 7 years? Nothing in my situation has changed. I thought your wonderful tax plan was supposed to help the middle class. Hashtag GOP lies. Here's another one from Ann Silvers. She said, just happened to my son and daughter-in-law. Instead of a $7,000 refund, they owe $65. Yet people are starting to understand that their tax refund isn't happening because they forgot or they didn't realize, and nobody told them, that they had to change their withholding. So it looked like they got, $5 a week or $56 a month more. Remember, I was talking to some guy, I'll never forget him, and I said, we figured out his entire financial situation, remember? And I told him, okay, so you're going to save $60 a month. Do you remember that guy? He was a hostile caller, and he was telling me, I don't care. As long as I'm getting a little bit more, I don't care. And I said to him, remember him? And I said to him, so you're going to sell out your country, and you're going to drive up the deficit that you're going to have to pay interest on to get $60 a month more in your paycheck. And at the end of the year, you're going to owe money. And he didn't want to believe me. Well, maybe now he does. Maybe now he does. So that little beer money that he got every week, it was his refund. And he's already spent it. And now he's going to owe money or break even and get no refund when he's used to getting $1,700 or he's used to getting $7,000. And God help you if you live in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, California, where there are high sales tax because you live in a real civilized society that has a great economy that's just rolling along. Like California is the 6th largest economy in the world. Well, you used to be able to take a nice deduction for state and local taxes, and now it's capped at $10,000. So that might be, your property tax and nothing else. You're screwed. You lost all these deductions so that CEOs could have theirs. And by the way, thank you to somebody who emailed me this, because yesterday I was fumfering around going, I remember when CEO to worker pay was 44-1, meaning the CEO made 44 times what the person on the line made. Yeah, you know what it is now? 312 times the CEO makes what his average employee makes. And that isn't even in large companies like McDonald's. McDonald's, the CEO, Steve Easterbrook, he got $21.7 million. A McDonald's worker gets $7 an hour. You know what the ratio is of CEO pay to worker pay? 3,101 to 1. That's an outlier. I'll give you that. But Walmart, The CEO, Doug McMillon, took home $22.8 million. An average Walmart worker, $19,177. The ratio there, 1,188 to 1. I can go Amazon, Jeff Bezos. See, this is why I don't give a rat's ass what's going on between. Listen, if Inquirer gets nabbed that they took Saudi money, good, great. And they don't exist anymore, I'm happy, I'm thrilled. But these are rich people problems, okay? Jeff Bezos was paid, well, he wasn't paid much. He was paid $82,000 last year. Total compensation was $1.7 million in 2017. But that's because he owns billions of Amazon stock. Billions, okay? That said, the average Amazon worker makes $28,446. So even there, the ratio is 59 to 1. And that's not so shocking. I want to tell you something. CEO rewards have outstripped both the stock market prices and the corporate profits. Between 1978 and 2017, CEO compensation increased 979%. It's almost 1,000%. And the average worker's pay package over the same period of time from 78 to 2017, 11%. On average, we get about 0.3% increase every year. 0.3. 0.3. This is sick. This is a twisted society. You want to know why there's no wage growth? Because these outsized pay packages to the CEOs have a direct impact on the people down the food chain that make it all possible. Has nothing to do with their productivity or their good attitude or anything. It's that it's all going to the CEO. And very little is trickling down to you. This is called a rigged system. That is why expect to hear billionaires spitting out their spleen, telling you that taxing over $50 million worth of wealth is a bad idea. Because they have that. They have that. It's very, very sick. Meanwhile, 66% of Americans who declared bankruptcy last year did it because of a medical expense. That's what ruins our families. 66.5% get ruined by one medical emergency. Buy a stinking podcast.